What is up, everybody? It is Lawrence again from My Squeakers, and as a lifelong Knicks fan, I was super excited when they first announced this collaboration, and then I saw the apparel, and I really did not like it. However, I've been looking for an Air Force One for a very long time, and the stuff that's on the market today is just trash in terms of materials, so I was looking for a premium version of the Air Force One. And so this Kith collaboration with the Knicks, as well as Nike on the Air Force One, really hit it home for me in terms of wanting a pair. So without further ado, here is the Nike Air Force One in collaboration with Kith as well as Nike. So the inspiration for this specific colorway is pretty simple. The Knicks colors are orange and blue, and you'll see hits of orange and blue all throughout the sneaker. The other thing about the sneaker that's also unique is that it is a variant of the 2001 release Taiwan variant of the Air Force One. I believe that was also re-released in 2018. I don't quite remember, but I remember that pair being relatively limited and hard to get. And I think it's actually reselling for almost like $500. That design element of the Taiwan version of the Air Force One is what is represented here with the gradient colorway and icy sole. So I really do like that. And secondly, I was really excited about the Knicks collaboration in general, just because I've been a lifelong Knicks fan ever since I was a little tyke, watching Patrick Ewing and John Starks, whose jersey I have here, playing basketball against Jordan and the rest of those guys. And I really just absolutely loved the Knicks when I was growing up and watching them. I can't say the same thing about that as an adult in the last 10 years, but let's fast forward. So let's start with the rundown. The Nike Air Force One in collaboration with Kith and the Knicks is $130 retail, which is significantly more expensive than the original retail price of the Nike Air Force One, which is only $90. So you're paying a huge premium on this cost, and while all the materials as well as colorway are obviously unique and premium, it is probably not worth that $40 upcharge on materials alone. Next, going into sizing, I would probably go down a half a size. Most people either go half size down or a full size down on the Nike Air Force One in general. I would say that these fit pretty well. These actually are not as clunky as the typical Air Force One that I've tried on many times, and I've owned pairs in the past. So I would say half a size down for this Kith version is probably good. But if you are used to wearing a full size down, I would probably go with your regular Air Force One sizing. When it comes down to comfort, I would give this a rating of better than good, mainly because the upper actually does make a huge difference. I was actually able to wear these almost instantaneously, and it feels pretty good on feet because of the upper. The Air Force One midsole as well as outsole are just they've always been okay. Nothing phenomenal, and just kind of thinking about like your typical casual shoe. That's what these feel like, but the upper I think does make it and elevate it a little bit in terms of comfort. I was able to put these on feet really quickly, and a lot of the tightness that I normally feel when trying to break in that leather that they use in the Nike Air Force One isn't here. So I think from a comfort perspective, a little bit better than average, and definitely significantly better than your typical Air Force One. In terms of style, I actually like these a lot more than I expected. I really kind of didn't expect to like these too much because I'm not a huge fan of I thought I wasn't a huge fan of the gradient colors on the orange as well as medial sides with the blue. But when I see it in person, it looks pretty good. The only thing I really dislike is actually this hit of orange. I kind of wish they went with the blue here. But for the most part, I like the icy sole. So for a variant on the Air Force One, I'd say pretty good instead of like kind of the very typical if they were just to slap a black Nike Knicks logo here. They've gotten very lazy with a lot of the Air Force One variants for a lot of the collabs, so I'm just glad they did a little bit more than that, because a lot of times they just stick a little logo over here and they would have called it a day and the rest of the shoe would be completely white. So I think from a style perspective, I can dig it. All right, so with the rundown out of the way, let's get into the review of the sneaker itself. So let's start with the upper like we always do. The entire upper looks exactly like an Air Force One that we know and love. The main thing is that the entire upper is made out of this very tumbled and soft leather. I would say that it feels very similar to my Shadow Ones, as well as my Bread Ones that I used to have in terms of a feel. You can see and feel that squish. So tumbled leather a lot of times feels softer, but it's not necessarily nicer leather. I feel like this is definitely both worlds where the leather itself feels premium, and it's also soft at the same time. You know, I actually tried on an Air Force One a couple weeks ago because I honestly don't have a pair and I feel like I should have one as a sneakerhead. So I decided to go try them on, and they were really not great. And I'd say that the just feeling these are a completely different story. I mean, just look at that creasing that happens, which I don't mind on the Air Force One. These are going to look a lot better beaten up. Then on the lateral side, you're also going to see an orange swoosh with a gradient. On the medial side, you're going to see a blue swoosh with a gradient. Then finishing off the lateral side, you have NYC with an orange swoosh done through it. And finally, on the very back, you actually have the Kith Air logo instead of the Nike Air logo. Moving up the tongue, you have regular flat style lacing with a tumbled leather tongue that is the same leather as the rest of the Air Force One. And then finishing off, you have the Nike Kith Air Force One logo at the very top, done in a orange as well as blue gradient, and it looks very similar to really kind of like a retro vibe, which is kind of cool. Going over to the midsole, you have your typical Air Force One midsole. Nothing to say here. It's as typical as possible. The main difference here is on the outsole. So instead of a white outsole that you typically find on the Air Force One, you're going to have the translucent, icy outsole, which I absolutely love. People don't love the icy outsoles because they eventually do become yellow and kind of nasty, but I don't mind that worn look. But they do look really, really sick when they're brand new. On the interior of the sneaker is just regular mesh, and it's very hard mesh. I really wish that because we're paying a $40 premium on this specific sneaker, that they would have done something nicer on the inside, whether changing up with leather on the inside or even some type of suede. I think it would have been a lot nicer, especially at a $40 premium, but it is what it is. They went with their typical insole and outsole patterns, as well as kind of sock liner for the Air Force One. And that's it, guys. This is a really simple sneaker. It's pretty much exactly the same as other Air Force Ones, except with the kind of little differences that I outlined. I'd say that the premium leather is great compared to the regular version, but I'm not sure if it's worth the $40 upcharge if you're able to get this at retail. But I would say from a recommendation perspective, while I do like these a lot more in hand than I expected, these are not, if I had to pick just one Air Force One that I would have, these would not be it. They would probably be the John Elliott's that I don't own because they're too expensive. But I would really, really love to have a pair of those one day because I also heard the inside, they actually changed a lot on the inside and made those significantly more comfortable. So unless you're a Knicks fan and really, really like this colorway, I would probably pass on this one. And that's it, guys. If you guys haven't already, hit the thumbs up button for this video. If you like this type of content and want more of it, squeak all over that subscribe button. But until next time, this is the Nike Air Force One in collaboration with Kith and the New York Knicks. Peace.